Welcome to the Voice of San Diego, Friday 5, live at 5. My name is Scott Lewis, the CEO and editor-in-chief at Voice of San Diego. Got a big week. The last Friday 5, live at 5 of 2020. We're going to go right into 2021. This year can't end soon enough. I think we have, we're all going to remember we went through this year together. This was this was something. We had our annual holiday party last night for Voice of San Diego, but we had to do it from the Zoom. I thought it would be not so great, but it was great. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed talking with everybody. We sent everybody some foodstuffs and just kind of talked about holidays past. There was a time when I would have a lot of trouble the next day after the Voice San Diego holiday party because I'd be a little hungover, haven't drinking in many years, and so it was just kind of a normal day in this weird life. Let's get into this. We got a lot to talk about. Number one, the county of San Diego announced on, what was it, Wednesday night, that it was going to stop enforcing its health order, the stay-at-home order of the state, at restaurants and strip clubs. This was the thing they put out. They said, until we have clarity on what the judge decided, and I'll explain the judge's decision, we're going to have to stop enforcing this. This is my favorite part. The last sentence: please don't gather, socially distance, wear a face covering, and wash your hands. Please don't please don't gather. Please do socially. They're missing something there. Please don't gather, socially distance, or wear a face mask. I don't know what's going on there. The point is, they felt a little bit helpless. What is happening? What is going on? The cases are surging. There's more than 3,000 cases today. Hospitals are full. What is going on with this virus, and what is going on with these rules? Let's break it down. So what happened is the strip clubs, led by two of them, Cheetahs and Pacers. I don't know if there's two more famous ones in the region, but there you go, Cheetahs and Pacers. They say, you can't shut us down. Judge rules with them, and then this week lays down a ruling saying not only can strip clubs operate, but strip clubs with restaurant services can operate, and thus restaurant services of all kinds also should be able to operate. And so all of a sudden, we get that decision by the county, like, wow, I guess we have to let everything go open. And people open. Check this place out. This is Tony Pepperoni Pizza in, and I can do that. I'm Italian. I can emphasize the Tony Pepperoni. That was Fox 5. Tony Pepperoni's. They like, hey, let's go, baby. Let's do some dining. COVID, Smovid. What is happening? So here's what happened. The judge, the judge was having none of the county's arguments. One of the things the county argued was, the judge basically says, how can you prove that restaurants are causing this surge in cases? What evidence do you have? And what the county pointed at was our old friend, outbreaks. The county pointed at outbreaks, and specifically this data here, including this 1 week at the end of November, where they said, look, there's more than 70 outbreaks, sir, Your Honor. There's more than 70 outbreaks, Your Honor. So obviously there's 70 outbreaks. And so remember, we asked several months ago for outbreak data, like location data. Where are these happening? How do you know what's happening with these outbreaks? And they refused to give us. And guess who the judge was that refused our plea to release that information? This same guy. Judge Wolfile. Let me get his exact name. What's his name? Judge Wolfile. He says that same thing. He says we're not going to give you that outbreak data. We rule against you. That exemption should occur. But one thing I remember, so this is what he says to the county. He says, that outbreak data presented to me, is vague and marginally relevant, if at all, to the limited issue before the court, namely whether plaintiffs providing adult entertainment and San Diego County businesses with restaurant service, such as plaintiffs' establishments, subject to protocols, present any risk, much less a greater risk than before Gavin Newsom issued his December 3rd regional stay-at-home order. So he said, basically, prove to me that these restaurants are causing this problem. And they used outbreak data, which they won't let us see anything about other than the numbers and what type of place it is. And then he says that outbreak data doesn't do any good. I am just shocked they used that outbreak data. This is the county's own argument in our outbreak case about that outbreak data that they're not now saying is what made them sure that they should have this stay-at-home order. He says, this was the county itself. We are asking, at Voice San Diego's asking for information so that we can help each other understand where these outbreaks are happening. And then the county itself says there's no correlation between the location of an outbreak and the risk of later catching the virus at that location. Indeed, if a particular location was an unacceptable health risk to the public, the county would just close it down. So the county itself doesn't like its outbreak data, but uses that data to as the one reason that this should be closed off. And the judge is like, that doesn't make any sense. So now we have Tony Pepperoni with Tony Pepperoni just opening up. It's madness. It is madness. More than 3,000 new cases today. The hospitals are filling up. There's 0% ICU capacity for our region. Now there's more ICU capacity for San Diego County, but for this region we've been lumped into, there's 0. And it's not getting any better. The numbers are surging. So we got us a problem here. We got a problem. Now the county has no idea. Here's the best part. The county has no idea what's happening. They don't know for sure that this ruling means that you can have Tony Pepperoni style dining going on. They don't know any. They're not sure of that. They're like trying to figure it out. And in fact, the fact that they don't know is probably a good argument that they can use at the state right now, at the appeal court, the Court of Appeal, to say, like, this is so confusing, we don't know. And that's probably a good argument that the judges might consider in halting this ruling that came down. But here's an interesting part about that. So Supervisor Jim Desmond, who's been wanting everything to be open except for maybe masks, everything open except for masks and minimal stuff like that, he refused to appeal the ruling about just strip clubs when it was just strip clubs. He did not want that ruling to be challenged. He wants that ruling be like, let the strip clubs go. He was one of the 2 of 5 supervisors who wanted to let the strip clubs themselves go. But then this ruling came down that included all of the restaurants. And County Supervisor Diane Jacobs was like, hey, let's all get together and talk, because we were going to appeal just the strip clubs, but now it's about restaurants too, and maybe we want to let that happen. I'm not sure. So today they meet and they have this discussion about whether to appeal, and they decide unanimously to appeal the whole thing, including to force strip clubs to close and to close restaurants to close. So Desmond went from supporting strip clubs to be open themselves to now voting to have everything closed except outdoor dining. And this was the guy that was like going out, like meeting with restaurants that were open inside and hanging out with them and saying, this is great. This should happen. I don't know what's going on. I can't figure it out. Where is he on this? Everything open or everything closed except for outdoor dining? It's our first pandemic, folks. It's our first pandemics. So the judge, oh man, you guys got some feisty comments. Okay. Uh, are here's one. Are the churches open? The stay-at-home order does not allow worshiping to occur inside, and they are not included in this ruling about restaurant services. So, no, but I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what's happening. All right, number 2. All right, one of the places this you get more of the virus, you get sicker. Well, our county got more of the virus, and a lot of people got sick here. I'm not convinced that our behavior changed over the last month of any significance. We all started partying more than we were. The last 5-6 weeks, we've seen a surge come here, and I think it's just because it started in the Midwest. It finally got to us. There is a wave that hit us, and one of the places it hit was the convention center. The convention center has been housing hundreds of homeless people. There were a lot of homeless people in the shelters around town, and they decided right away when the pandemic came that that they couldn't hang out in those poorly ventilated small spaces, that they needed to spread out. They found the convention center. They opened it. Major mobilization of city employees and resources to make that happen. For months, it operated without any cases or very few, but now it has just seen its own surge as well. The hundreds of people in the convention center have started to spread the virus within the community of their own area. There, 170 shelter clients had positive results. There was since April, hundreds of people have slept there. This month, more than 160 residents and staff have received positive tests. There's been now a push among activists to get them out of there and into hotel rooms or otherwise figure things out. Now, the mayor today, Mayor Todd Gloria, declared that place is going to stay open for a couple more months, that they're going to redirect money that they were using for other shelters and other issues like that and keep it alive. It wasn't entirely clear from his announcement just how that or where that money would come from. Now, if you want to get really in depth on this, we interviewed Joel Day, who ran this whole program for former Mayor Kevin Faulkner, on our podcast last week. And he explained why the cost is so high. They have lots of services there. They're keeping convention center employees employed. These people who would normally be serving like the proctologists or whatever are now, serving homeless people with the food and everything going on. And there's all the services, medical services, testing. They have city employees working there. That's why it's like $10 million or $10,000 per person there staying. But I think a lot of people are balking at that number. But Todd Gloria, the new mayor, says he's going to have the money. He's going to keep it open. But this outbreak that's occurring in this area is starting to spur calls to get them out of there, get them into hotels that the city has bought and that the county and the state have rented for just this sort of circumstance. So watch this. This is a space to watch. We still don't know what's going to happen to the hundreds of people who live in the convention center now when conventions start again. All right, number 3. All right, we had a series this week called Rethinking San Diego. It was about some of these ideas that have been coming up over this whole mess of a year. And we just want to kind of like put them through the policy grind. Do they hold up? What are the issues that come up? What are the questions that come up? What are the ideas that come up? And one of them that we came up with was written by Will Huntsberry. It's about an idea that I think I first heard from Assemblywoman Lorena Gonzalez, that maybe you should just scrap this year for education and just redo it. And he quotes in there a conservative who agrees with her on that. And she is helping support a bill that would allow parents to much more easily hold their kids back to try to redo the year. Now, I think there's derivatives of this idea that, maybe one derivative is maybe they voluntarily hold back kids. Another derivative might be maybe we just scrap grade levels for elementary students for a while, and they have to get through like a certain level of competence before they can move on to middle school. That kind of thing might be a good idea. But we can't just pretend like this year is fine, like they got a fine education, because it's a little weird for uh, somebody to say like they're getting a fine education, but also we need billions of dollars to make up for what happened. Like, which is it? Did they get a fine education, or do we need to recover everything with billions of dollars? Well, that came into focus in Will's story. Richard Barrera, the trustee, San Diego Unified Board of Education trustee, a member of the board, just recently reelected. Richard Barrera said, Will asked him, like, what would you say to Lorena Gonzalez about her idea to redo the year? And he said this. I was I was kind of surprised that he said this. He said, I would say to her, your job is to focus on getting schools the money they need, not to come up with strategies not grounded in the work educators already know how to do. Okay. Okay. Here was Assemblywoman Lorena Gonzalez's response. Not into that. Send us more money, ask for nothing, question nothing, know your place. I'm going to give Richard the benefit of the doubt that it didn't come out right. But in that same piece with Will Huntsberry, Richard Barrera said he also disputed the notion that students will necessarily be far off grade level at the end of the school year. It still remains to be seen, he said. Most researchers, as Will pointed out, disagree. And then Will followed that up the next day with a story, or this Thursday with his bi-weekly newsletter called The Learning Curve, about what we do know about some of the things happening. So chronic absenteeism across the state may be surging as much as 220%. Whole classes of second graders falling behind in reading. The achievement gap is widening. Some experts say that 20% or more of students may be so far behind they should not move on to the next grade level. I think that the notion that everything's fine and that they've gotten a fine education this year is really contradictory, again, to Richard Barrera's other claim that they need hundreds of millions of dollars in extra funding to make up for what's happened. But it's kind of a classic San Diego Unified position. Like, everything's great. We're doing everything right. Everything's been really, really good. But also, we need hundreds of billions of dollars to fix what's wrong. It's like, I'm. They don't need hundreds of billions. You know what I mean? Like, there's just this constant like defensiveness. Like, oh no, everything's great, but also this like demand for more resources. Um, Uh-oh. Looks like we have some breaking news. The appeals court granted a stay of the reopening order. All right, let me fix this up. Let me fix this in my head. Let's see if I can pull up the link that he had there. Um, so okay, they immediately appealed the judge's ruling to the state, and the state has now said, yeah, the stay-at-home order is still good, and this judge was wrong. So Tony Pepperoni has got to Tony Pepperoni better close up things again. That's what I gather. Thank you, Seth, for this breaking news. I'll check that out if I can find it. Man, a lot of breaking news this Friday. Here we go. Today's decision to close Jim Desmond to close restaurants one day after they were allowed to open is tragic for San Diego's workforce. The seesawing of people's livelihoods 1 week before Christmas is devastating. Again, he just voted to appeal the ruling that he just voted to have this happen, right? I don't understand. I guess he wants to keep outdoor dining. Ugh. It's breaking my brain, folks. It is breaking my brain. So, breaking news, 5:20 p.m., 5:16 p.m. Thank you, Seth, for that. We'll try to figure out what happened. Let's go on to number 4. All right, we had some other breaking news. All right, Meg just hooked me up with this news. Let me just check this out. San Diego Appeals Court. This is Greg Moran at the Union Tribune. Says San Diego Appeals Court issues stay of judge's order that allowed San Diego restaurants to reopen back to shutdown. Here's the order. Quote, the emergency application for temporary stay has been read and considered by Justices Haller, Irion, and Guerrero. The December 16th, 2020 order granting respondents a preliminary injunction against appellants is stayed pending further order of this court. What a mess. What an absolute mess. Tony Pepperoni, though, has to close again. Compliance is a big issue, right, though? Like, will they? All right, let's move on. There was some other breaking news today. This was our number 3 topic. We had 3 other rethinking pieces that I would recommend you check out. One of them was we asked people to consider the border, like what would they do to the border and it was a really great imagery that Maya Sri Krishnan laid out, this idea of a border that felt more like an airport where rather than line up in this kind of like prison-y type feeling situation, and instead there'd be coffee there. If you're going to wait a couple hours, like make it something that people want to experience in a little bit more comfort. So there's a really interesting piece about the border. There was another piece about the obstacles and opportunities with the defund the police movement, like what actually is the case with the funding of the police and what's sort of in place versus what can be changed. And I gotta say, not much can be changed very easily. It's very hard to cut things, especially police at San Diego City Hall. But the one I want to talk about right now is the piece about power, energy. So we've been talking about for a few months about this fee agreement and its expiration right now. So right now, all of the power lines in San Diego are owned by San Diego Gas and Electric, but they can only be on the streets because they have permission from the San Diego city government. And the San Diego city government gives them permission based on what's called the franchise fee. And that's been in place now for like 50 years. It's expiring right now. Literally right now, it is expiring. So they asked for bids for people who might want to take that responsibility on and buy all of the lines from SDG&E, or SDG&E can rebid and continue to do this work for the next 20 years and continue to collect everybody's rates and pay the city its franchise fee every year. Now, what another group of people want to happen is for the city itself to buy all those power lines and run it as its own city power company, like we do water. That's called municipalization. There's a lot of people pushing that right now, like activists who think that because of how much money Sempra or SDG&E is able to make, that some of that money could actually lower power bills and otherwise be used to maybe help people who can't afford it put solar panels up, stuff like that. That's their dream. They look at the profits that SDG&E makes and they say, we can do better with that money if we just borrow a bunch of money, buy all those power lines, and run it ourselves. That's called municipalization, and they want that to happen. And they wanted this deal to redo the extension of this franchise fee to not happen, and so that they can continue to build the case for this to happen. Now, doesn't seem like the new mayor and the new council president want that to happen. However, tonight, in some other breaking news, Todd Gloria announced that, let me see if I can pull that up. Mayor Todd Gloria announced that after reviewing the bids submitted by SDG&E and consulting with the city attorney's office, we have determined their bid is unresponsive to the city's invitation to bid. Therefore, I am rejecting the bid and canceling the current invitation to bid process. This is big. So basically, he's saying SDG&E is going to have to come stronger. And I think he's hinting there that they have some other option if SDG&E doesn't, which is municipalization, because no other companies bid for this. And thus, they need an extension now from SDG&E. Now, SDG&E could play hardball and say, well, we're under no obligation to keep providing this service or whatever. So we're in a really weird moment with the city's power situation. So buckle up. This could be a really interesting public affairs situation for the next couple months. Does the city seriously consider municipalization? Do they push SDG&E harder? Will SDG&E step up and provide more to make the mayor and the city council happy? I don't know. Really, really interesting moment for San Diego public affairs and the way we get our power and electricity and gas. All right, let's check in the comments quickly. Don't normalize the militarized border. Fair enough. Fair enough. If we municipalize electric power lines, who would pay for the nuclear power plant that never provided anyone any electricity and never will? Well, that's SoCal Gas. So that's a different group. We're talking about SDG&E and just for the city right now. Let's check this out. Of course, a true solution, opening up the power lines to competition in the same way phone lines work, is not on the agenda. Fair point. So yeah, that's something to watch right now. That is going to be on the agenda for the next couple of months. All right, let's go on to number 5. All right. A couple of years ago or a year ago, I don't know time anymore. We did a story about a doctor in South Park who took cash only and gave out a third of all of the vaccine exemptions for kids in San Diego Unified School District. So you are required in the state of California to vaccinate your children if they want to go to public schools. There are exemptions that were made available for specific reasons. And one doctor provided, a plurality of them in this area. And her name was Dr. Zanfleet, Dr. Tara Zanfleet. Now, that was a really interesting story. She ended up having a lot of, this was her sort of, there it is. That's the main story we did. Dr. Tara Zanfleet in South Park, just this small place. Again, she only took cash. She ended up having a lot of trouble after that. And then there was some legislation pursued because of that story that we did to try to limit how those exemptions were handled. That became, you might remember, a huge problem at the legislature. I guess it was last year when there was some really gnarly protests and stuff. That was about that legislation that we provoked. Now, this week, Will Huntberry, who broke that story, has a new story about Dr. Z. He said new charges by the state medical board against Dr. Zanfleet indicate that there's something else going on. The charges allege that Zanfleet overprescribed addictive painkillers to at least 4 of her patients, failed to treat their addictions, and did not make serious efforts to taper off their doses. One guy described to Will how he took his son there, and she didn't ask any questions, do any sort of, vital checks, and then just asked for the cash and gave him the prescription. So really interesting story and development there from Dr. Z, Dr. Tara Zanfleet. Check that out at voiceofsandiego.org. You can see that and all the stories that we do there. So, wow, fascinating developments today. Friday 5, it comes right at the time when people like to dump news. That's why we do the Friday 5 live at 5, because that's when people like to hide news. They're not accustomed to the bright lights of the Friday 5 live at 5 to highlight some of the things that they release on Friday afternoon. That's why we do it, and that's why we're here for all you. I am going to work a little bit over the next 2 weeks, but I'm not going to do this show because it's on Christmas and then on New Year's Day. So hopefully you guys can hang and deal. Um, let's stop paying attention. Let's just not worry about things as much for the next couple of weeks. Hopefully, um, maybe the current president will decide that he accepts the results of the election and stops that craziness and the calls for martial law. And maybe we can just stay at home and not spread the virus and not get sick. Just stay at home. Just a few more months. Vaccine's coming. The numbers are bad. Just stay at home. Go order food. Go surfing. Go walk on the beach. Take care of your dog. Stay in. Just a couple more months. And then we'll have something to look forward to. So the next couple of weeks, take care of yourself. Take care of your family. Don't just at the very least, don't go to any indoor parties with a bunch of other people. That's the worst thing you can do, or indoor gatherings. If you gotta meet with somebody, do it outside. That's all I'm asking. Will Huntsberry is awesome, as are all the VOSD reporters, of course. All right, that gives me my opening for one last pitch. voiceofsandiego.org/donate. Please go and donate. Oh, man. It's the best one I've ever got. Thank you. Please go and donate. We've got to pay Will Huntsberry. We've got to pay all of our reporters. We have to pay for things, and that we do because people donate money. And so, if you don't have a lot of money or can't do it, I understand completely. If you do have some extra resources and you're looking for a place to help, this is what we do. We have more than 3,000 members who support all of this investigative and explanatory work we do. Go in there and donate. And there's a little line where it says why you donated. And if you put in there Friday 5, I'll feel that. And I appreciate that. And also, I can highlight it on the next show when we come back. So go and donate, voicesandiego.org/donate. And you can put in there Friday 5 when it asks you why you donated. And then all of the people who think that I'm wasting my time with this will know that it's delivered like $35 or something. No, I'm kidding. This is not a waste. I enjoy this extremely, and someday it'll be the biggest show in San Diego you watch. All right. Thank you so much for your support. Enjoy the holiday season. If you celebrate, if you don't, at least it's a time to relax, hopefully. And we'll see you next year. Yes.